You might feel disconnected or like you aren't getting any signs from your spirit guides or your guardian angels. And the truth is that there are so many signs that they can be sending you, and some of them you might not even be aware of. So in this video, I'm going to be talking to you all about different signs that your guardian angels or your spirit guides could be sending you that maybe you're just missing. Let's get into it. You won't necessarily see them in the physical world, but I can assure you that they are here and they are with you and they are supporting you. It can help to guide us in many aspects of our life, including emotional health all the way to spiritual health. Before we get to the signs, let's talk about when these signs will show up in your life. So a lot of times signs will show up when they want to send a message of support or guidance to us. Maybe you're contemplating a big life decision that you have in front of you, and maybe you'll see a sign that supports your decision. We'll also send us signs when we're going through a hard time or a hardship and we need the support. So I know it can be really hard to pay attention to the signs and symbols that show up when we are really going through it. These are one of the times to where the signs will most likely show up. Really profound signs will also show up when we are going through a spiritual awakening. A spiritual awakening is no joke. It is some of the most intense energy that you will ever experience. It's when we are becoming more in tune with higher levels of consciousness. As the earth raises in vibration, we see a lot more people having these really profound spiritual experiences or spiritual awakenings. So when you see some of these signs, it means your angels are trying to get in contact with you. One of the most common ones that I hear about all the time is seeing angel numbers. A lot of times these will show up on license plates, they'll show up on receipts, they'll show up on house numbers, or even the clock. For an example, yesterday I was seeing 111 absolutely everywhere. It'll usually show up frequently, and for me, a lot of times it shows up within a short period of time because they're really trying to grab my attention. I don't know how else to explain it other than that my eyes just feel drawn to the number for whatever reason, because there are numbers everywhere, but for whatever reason, you will feel drawn to it. I'm usually not one to be looking at the clock all the time, but when I do happen to look at the clock, if I keep looking at it at 111 or 1111, I take that as a sign. And this isn't an angel number, but probably about 10 years ago now, I was on my way to a meeting with an investor that I had for a previous business, and I was really debating whether I would speak up and negotiate the terms a little bit more, and I was just debating whether I wanted to do that or not. And I was literally driving on my way to this meeting, and I see a license plate that cuts right in front of me that said speak up, or it says something along those lines. And so it kind of took me back, and I looked at it and I'm like, wow, okay, so I got to speak up. So I took that as a push forward for me to speak up. And so I ended up speaking up, and I ended up getting the terms actually even a little bit better than what I was initially going for. The meanings for the numbers go hand in hand with numerology. So if you keep seeing 222, then you would look up what 222 means in numerology, or you can look up 222 and what it means for angel numbers. Numbers also can correlate to different archangels, so it could also be a sign that an archangel is around you or wanting to help you out. So if you keep seeing the same number over and over again, it's time to stop, take a look, and see what they are trying to communicate to you. And the next thing is white feathers. Sometimes people refer to these as little hellos from heaven. Most commonly, we'll probably see white feathers, but that doesn't mean that they can't show up in any other colors. A lot of times feathers can come into our path when we are needing some sort of support or reassurance on a path that we're on. A lot of times these white feathers will show up in weird or unexpected places, or they'll fall directly in your path. Good way to connect with your angels would be to bring that feather home and use it on your next meditation to try and connect. Another way that they can show you signs is in nature. So for an example, if you look at the clouds one day and it looks like a number or a symbol or any other kind of spiritual sign. No, I don't usually sit there and stare at the clouds to look for the signs. So what I usually say is, like, if it's something that really grabs your attention. So if you happen to be looking up at the sky and you see this spiritual symbol, then usually I would say take notice of that. It doesn't necessarily have to just be in nature, but it can also be in your environment. So I remember one time I was working out and I was laying on my mat doing some exercises, and I looked up at the ceiling, and we have those textured ceilings, and what grabbed my attention was there was some of the plaster stuff that was in the shape of a heart. My eye was just like drawn to it, and I couldn't help but just smile because I knew that my angels were around me at that time. Rainbows are also a really good one that will usually show up at a time when maybe you need a little pick-me-up, or you need a reason to smile, or you need a little bit of hope in your life that day. So they really remind us of the beauty that we have around us and can remind us what we have to be grateful for. And think about the significance that the symbols would play in your life. So I might be shown a heart for a completely different reason than you would. And I know a lot of times this also shows up when I'm doing a reading. So maybe I might see something that is completely weird to me, seems really strange to me, but then I end up sharing it with my client and it just completely makes sense to them and they can resonate with it. Your angels are going to show you symbols and signs that will resonate with you on your level. Also, sometimes they might be trying to get in contact with you if you hear ringing in your ears. So of course you want to rule out any medical conditions that can be causing the tinnitus-like symptoms. If it's not a medical condition, it could also be ascension symptoms, or it could be your angels trying to get your attention. Just take notice of what is happening when you experience that symptom. You might also feel physical sensations when they are around you. You could feel things such as goosebumps, tingling, warmth, or even just a deep feeling of love. This one can be really common when you are praying or meditating, or when you're seeking a connection with them. This next one is really cool to experience. You might see flashes of light. This can be in the corner of your eyes, or it can be subtly in your vision. I know I experience this a lot when I close my eyes for a few minutes of meditation. A lot of times I will see the vibrant colors. You might also experience floating orbs of light, and archangels have specific colors that they are usually associated with when it comes to seeing flashes of light. And this is actually something that I've been experiencing a lot more of recently. I've been seeing colors such as pink, red, and green. So red is associated with Archangel Uriel, and pink is associated with Shamuel, and green is associated with Archangel Raphael. So I've been taking my signs and I have been looking to connect with those archangels a lot more recently. They might also be trying to get a hold of you if you are experiencing a lot of synchronicities in your life. So maybe you haven't talked to or hung out with a friend in a really long time, and they suddenly just pop in your head, and then before you know it, they're calling you on the phone. It's also referred to as a meaningful coincidence. Sure, we might be able to chalk that up to just a regular coincidence, but I don't know. In my opinion, I feel like there are no accidents, and I think that there's a lot of things that are done on purpose. Something like this happened to me a while ago. I hadn't talked to this friend in quite a while, and they popped in my head, and I'm like, gosh, I wonder how they're doing. And something told me that I needed to call them. So I ended up calling them, and it turns out their whole life was like upside down. Everything was chaos, and I had really called to check in on them at the right time. For me, I don't look at that really as a coincidence. I look at that as divine timing and something that was meant to happen. Another thing that a lot of people usually experience when their angels are trying to get in contact with them is finding coins in weird places or directly in your path. I know for me, it usually stops me dead in my tracks. And yes, I always pick it up, even if it's a penny. And what I notice a lot about when I start to receive some of these signs that are like dead in my tracks is I start paying attention to what was I thinking about at the time. And a lot of times I'll be in like this more negative trance, and then it's like, oh, I find a coin on the ground, and it totally disrupts that negative trance that I was in. And really, they're signs of encouragement for us when we might be feeling down and when we really need it. If we are really worrying about something in our physical world that it might not work out, whether that's finances, career, or just something that we have going on, a lot of times pennies or dimes will show up in our tracks to reassure us that everything is going to be okay. We are going to be okay. Something that I didn't pay attention to until recently was paying attention to the numbers on the coin. So what year was the coin made? Are there any markings on it? What type of coin is it? It can also be clues as to what type of message they are trying to send us. Another thing that sort of ties into what I was saying before about nature is sometimes animals will be placed directly in our path. And I had this happen to me recently. I was in my kitchen, and for whatever reason, I was just really drawn to this huge bird that was out in our backyard. And I'm not usually the type to sit there and watch birds, but for some reason, I was feeling really drawn to this bird. And I don't know what type of birds are what. I'm not a real bird person. I don't know all of the different types of birds. And so I actually had to post a picture and video of it on my Facebook to see what it was. And as it turns out, it was a falcon. And I ended up looking up the spiritual meaning for a falcon, and holy smokes, it was so dead on with what I needed to hear in that moment and just what I'm experiencing in my life. So I know also a lot of times our loved ones that have crossed over will show us in the form of animals as well. Some people see cardinals, some people will see hummingbirds, dragonflies, butterflies. All of these things are signs that they are around us, they are supporting us, and they are here for us. I'd love to know in the comments your experiences with signs and symbols and which ones you experience the most. And with that said, I'm going to end this video with a card pull from my Starseed Oracle. This is the one that I was feeling drawn to when I was asking for before the video. So we're gonna pull a card from here and see what it says. I'm really actually liking this deck. I just got it not long ago. And I love the beautiful imagery on it, and I love the messages. I haven't read all of them. Okay, so let's see. What do we need to know at the conclusion of this video? Let's see, sticking together. Go. Star Keeper, Cosmic Ancestor, seed the light by staying grounded. So this is what the card looks like. I'll also put it up on the screen. Okay, so I gotta look it up in the book. Oh, got to that fast. Okay. You're an ancient keeper of the stars, here to anchor and seed your light in a unique way. You've likely been incarnating on Earth for some time, dedicated to an era of awakening and bringing about a long-awaited shift in the planet's evolution. We're at this tipping point now. The survival of Earth and all its species is coming to a head. The more grounded you remain during this transitional period, the more helpful you'll be. The more you tend to the flames of your own heart, the more love you'll anchor onto this planet. The wisdom of the stars is imprinted in your soul. The more soul fragments you call home, the more this wisdom is seated here. You may be called to be in different places in the world to anchor this light, perhaps by taking a trip or living in a certain location. You may also find yourself experiencing awakening symptoms. Didn't I just talk about that? The more grounded you remain, the more stable Earth's energy will become and the less reactive humanity will be. You're here for a double mission, to grow as an individual and as part of a larger collective that's bringing about a shift in frequency. Trust that you can be in the world, but not of it, and lead a truly glorious life. Starseed activation, place the card on the portal of your heart and whisper the following. I acknowledge that I'm a star keeper. I choose to anchor my light and stay as grounded as possible. I think that's a constant challenge, like when we talk about staying grounded. I feel like for myself, that's a constant challenge to stay grounded. I tend to live a lot in my upper chakras, and I always have to bring myself down. And the same thing with my son. I always have to get that grounding, that earth type energy with him as well. So I think that that's like a constant thing that I have to work on. I know that that's something that stood out to me in there. And then also the awakening symptoms. I don't know, maybe another video is warranted on that. I'm not sure, but I did mention it earlier in this video, so that's kind of interesting that something about that comes up. I really hope this video was helpful, and don't forget to let me know in the comments how you experience signs and symbols from your angels. Which ones do you see the most? I would love to hear from you. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel.